Hare Krishna. So today we'll continue from 2.15. Just share my screen. Okay. Anyone available to read the verse?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Vinay Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Am I audible, Mataji?
Yes, you are audible, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, am I audible?
Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji, you are audible.
Okay. Uh, Yam hi na व्यथायन्ते इते पुरुषं पुरुषा सर्व समदुःख सुखं धीरं सोमृत्य मृत्यो कल्पते मृत्यो तत्व कल्पते synonyms yam one who one to whom he certainly na never vyathayanti are distressing ite all this purusham to a person purusho rashabha O best of among men sama unaltered dukha in distress sukham and happiness dhiram patient sa he amritva tatya for liberation Kalpate is considered eligible. Translation and purport by His Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both the certainly eligible for liberation. Purport. Anyone who is steady in his determination for the advanced stage of spiritual realization and can equally tolerate the onslaughts of distress and happiness is certainly a person eligible for liberation. In the in the Vanashram institutions, the fourth stage of life, namely renounced order sannyasa, is a painstaking situations, but one who is serious about making his life perfect surely adopt the sannyas order of life in spite of all the difficulties. The difficulties usually arise making his life perfect surely adopts the sannyas order of life in spite of all difficulties. The difficulty usually arises from having to the severe family relationship to give up the connection of wife and children. But if anyone is able to tolerate such difficulty, surely his path to spiritual realization is complete. Similarly, in Arjuna, discharge of duties as Kshatriya, he is advised to persevere even if it is difficult to fight with his family members or similarly beloved person. Lord, Lord Chaitanya took sannyas at the age of 24 and his dependent young wife as well as old mother had no one else to look after them. Yet for a higher cause, he took sannyas and was ready in the discharge of the higher duties. That is the way of achieving liberations from material bondage. Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you so much, Tanva Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji. So, this is again continuation of the previous verse where Krishna specifically mentioned that okay, in this material world there has to be, I mean, it is so made that there will be dualities, sometimes good, sometimes bad, sometimes happiness, sometimes distress, and so on. But a wise person should learn to tolerate it without getting disturbed. So here again, further is mentioning about it that the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady is something good happens, we become very elated. Wow, you throw a party and somebody wins a lottery or something, then they become so happy and jubilant and make do a party or something like that. But something bad happens, one is so morose, distressed, and first of all they'll say, oh, we are so doing, I have never done anything bad to anyone, why is God doing this to me? This is how people question. But one who is steady, one who is, when happiness comes, one who is taking it as a, as a blessing or a mercy of the Lord, and is equipoised, means is not too much happy, too much jubilant, or when something bad happens, one is not too much into depression or distressed or something like that. So one who is steady in happiness and distress is eligible, certainly eligible for liberation. Purport: anyone who is steady in his determination for the advanced stage of spiritual realization. Now we have to ask ourselves, are we determined? Are we really determined to advance in our spiritual life? And can equally, who is steady in his determination, so one who is fixed, like fully determined, yes, I have to advance in my spiritual realization, and can equally tolerate the onslaughts of distress and happiness, certainly a person eligible for liberation. So one who is determined and therefore can tolerate the dualities in this material nature is certainly eligible for liberation. In the Varnashram institution, the fourth stage of life. So in the Varnashram institution means there are 4 Varnas and there are 4 ashramas. So anybody knows? Anybody would like to try? What are the 4 Varnas and what are the 4 ashramas? No one knows?
Mataji, it's a brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, or sannyas.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. So yes, the ashramas are Brahmachari ashram, Grihastha ashram, Vanaprastha ashram and Sannyas ashram. Similarly, the Varnas are Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras. Yes. So specifically, Prabhupada is mentioning that in the fourth order, that is the Sannyas ashram, it's a very difficult or painstaking situation. Why? Because in the brahmachari ashram, it's like student life. So in earlier times, the brahmachari, they would be sent, young boys would be sent to the gurukul, and they would stay at spiritual master's place and learn, take spiritual education, whatever education they would get, and they would serve the spiritual master, and that's how they will be trained in the brahmachari ashram. Now if they want to get married after 25 years of age, then they can get married and enter grihastha ashram. But because they are trained, they know what is right, what is to be done, and what ought to be done, what not to be done, like what is beneficial for their spiritual life and what is not. So they act accordingly, they spend their grihastha ashram accordingly, and then after 50 years of age, they enter into the Vanaprastha ashram, where there is no more working for earning money or and so on, maintaining the family, but the husband and wife, both or separately, either way, can engage in traveling or visiting or pilgrim places of holy places or preaching activities. And then comes a sannyasa ashram, where the wife comes back to home and stays along with the family and all, and does her devotional activities, and the men, they take sannyas and dedicate fully to preaching activities. Okay, so this is a Vedic, in the Vedic sense it is there. So why it is painstaking? Because they have to stay alone without any connections with friends, family, relatives and so on, and engage fully in preaching activities. But one who is serious about making his life perfect surely adopts the sannyasa. So this is only for the men, in the those who are in the male body. In spite of all difficulty, difficulties usually arise from having to severe family relation, that is with a wife, children, relatives, and so on. But if anyone is able to tolerate such difficulties, surely his path to spiritual realization is complete. Now, one must understand that this is not something in the Vedic culture, because they were fixed up to advance in spiritual life. They would follow all this. Now, in the Kali Yuga, in the present time, artificially taking vanash, I mean to say, artificially adopting sannyas is just okay. I'm sannyasi, I'll become a sannyasi, so everybody will respect me and bow down before me. So that is useless. Rather, whether one is a brahmachari or a grahastha or a vanaprastha or a sannyasi, doesn't matter if one is fixed in Krishna consciousness. If one is a purely practicing Krishna consciousness and fixed in bhakti, then it doesn't matter. Even if one leaves the body in the brahmachari, just living as a brahmachari or being a grahastha or a vanaprastha, whatever, they can make their life perfect. But at least one should aim to come to the, if one is a grahastha ashram, at least they should aim to come to the vanaprastha ashram, where no more working for job and all those things. There has to be retirement, and one has to engage fully in Krishna conscious activities and preaching Krishna consciousness. So similarly, in Arjuna's discharge of duties as a Kshatriya, he is advised to persevere even if it is difficult to fight with his family members. So we can, we can understand Arjuna's situation now. All his family members, relatives, they are all assembled on the other side, the other opposite party, and he is about to fight with them. He has to kill his own grandfather and like Bhishma Dev, his own teachers like Dronacharya and so on, his own cousins like Duryodhan, etc. So it's very difficult for him. Lord Chaitanya, but however, his duty was awaiting him, because they were on the side of adharma and Arjuna Pandavas were on the side of dharma. So he was supposed to fight the battle. Now, Lord Chaitanya took sannyas at the age of 24, and his dependents, young wife as well as old mother, had no one else to look after them. Yet for a higher cause, he took sannyas and was steady in the discharge of higher duties. That is the way of achieving liberation from material bondage. So one shouldn't take it negatively that people generally who are ignorant take it, oh, how can they give up their young wife and mother, who will take care of them, and so on. But no, the Lord makes all arrangements for everything. So even his Lord Chaitanya's mother, she was being taken care of the other the devotees who were there and so on. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would also visit, in different way, and he would send message to his mother. His mother would come to Jagannath Puri and see him. So all those things were there. So we'll go on to the next verse, to point 16. Okay, anyone else is available to read this verse? Okay, Akuti Mataji, can you read this?
Yes, Mataji. नास नासोतो विद्यते भावो नाभावो विद्यते सदा उभयोरपि दृष्टो न दृष्टास् त्वम् अनाश्योष तत्त्वदर्शिभिः as synonyms, na never, asat of the non-existence, vidyate, there is, bhava, endurance, na never, abhava, changing quality, vidyate, there is, sataha, of the eternal, ubhayo, of the two, api, verily, drashta, observed, anta, Conclusion 2. Indeed, Anyayo of them, Tattva of the truth, Darshivhi by the seers. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Those those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existence, material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. Purport. There is no endurance of the changing body. That the body is changing every moment by the actions and reaction of the different cells is admitted by the modern medical science, and thus growth and old age are taking place in the body, but the spirit soul exist permanently, remaining the same despite all changes of the body and the mind. That is the difference between matter and spirit. By nature, the body is ever changing and the soul is eternal. This conclusion is established by all the classes of seers of the truth, both impersonalist and personalist. In the Vishnu Purana 2.12.32, it is stated that Vishnu and his words all have illuminated spiritual existence. Jyotimsi Vishnu Bhu- Bhuva, Bhuvanani Vishnu. The word existence and non-existence refers only to the spirit and matter. That is the version for all spheres of truth. This is beginning of the instruction by the Lord to the living entity who are bewildered by the influence of ignorance. Removal of ignorance involves the re-establishment of eternal relationship between the worshipper worshipper and the worshipable, and the consequent understanding of the difference between the part and parcel of living entity and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can understand the nature of the Supreme by through study of oneself. The difference between oneself and the Supreme Being understood as the relationship between the part and the whole. In the Vedanta Sutra, as well as in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Supreme has been accepted as the origin of all the emanations. Such emanations are experienced by superior and inferior natural sequences. The living entity belongs to the superior nature, as it will be revealed in 7th chapter. Although there is no difference between the energy and energetic, the energetic, the energetic is accepted as the supreme, and the energy or the nature is accepted as subordinate. The living entities, therefore, are always subordinate to the supreme Lord, as in the case of master and the servant, or the teacher and the taught, such clear knowledge is impossible to understand under the spell of ignorance, and to drive away such ignorance. The Lord teaches the Bhagavad Gita for enlightenment of all living entities for all time. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Dhanavad Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. Okay, so further, those who are shades of truth have concluded. So Krishna, I mean, he is the supreme authority, he's the supreme personality of Godhead. All this creation has come from him. Vedic scriptures are given by him. But still, he is uh, citing example from the past that how great personalities have concluded about here first of all Krishna is giving the first knowledge that he is giving to Arjuna is about the difference between the spirit soul and the material body. So he is trying to quote from great personalities that how they have concluded that this material body is temporary, whereas there is the soul which is spiritual and it doesn't go through changes just like the body is like the other day we were seeing the body we may have a in 2.13 first of all we had a baby's body, a small baby's body just a few months old, and then uh, we grew up, went to school, we have different we had a different body. Then we grew up, went to college and all, and now now specifically we have a different kind of a body. And after a few years we'll have a different kind of body, and then one day the body will grow old and die. But the we still, in our present state, we can understand how I'm different from the soul. Now you may see a photograph, when you were a small kid, maybe your first birthday or your second birthday was celebrated, you may have photos, no? So the body you had that point of time and the present body is completely different. It's not something theoretical. Even from medical science also it is proven that all the cells of our body gets changed after some years, even they all get changed. So but we still remember that, maybe you may remember, okay, in school some teacher gave you some credits, or you got some prize or something, or you had these friends in your school times and so on. You remember many things. So who is that who is remembering? The body is different. So who is remembering? So the actual living entity is the spirit soul. So we are that spirit soul, and presently we are covered, just like we are wearing some dress, some clothes. So this cloth is not me. If I'm wearing a coat, that coat is not me. That coat is something external. I may change that coat and wear another coat, or wear another clothes, some other clothes. Similarly, the spirit soul is eternal. So we are eternal. There is no birth and death for we, the living entity. So those are shades of those who are okay. So I mean, Krishna is quoting that, okay, the great personalities, they have concluded that of the non-existent, that is the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. So the nature of the material body is it will undergo change, whereas the nature of the soul is it is eternal, it's permanent, there is no change, it doesn't go through um, you know being grown up and then becoming old or something. No, soul is as it is. Purport: there is no endurance of the changing body, that is the that the body is changing every moment by the action and reaction of different cells is admitted in modern science, and thus growth and old age are taking place in the body, but the spirit soul, that is existing permanently, remaining the same despite all changes of the body and the mind. And we can see now, we can practically prove that, as we saw the example that in our present body I can remember few things what I may have done in school or with some friends, or and so on. By nature the body is okay, that is the difference between the matter and spirit. By nature, the body is ever changing and the soul is eternal. This conclusion is established by all classes of shades of truth, both impersonalist and personalist. Now, those who are spiritual seekers also, there are two sections. Personalist means who understand that the Supreme has a form, is a person, he has a form. And there are other section who have a partial understanding of the Supreme, and they come to the conclusion that the Supreme is formless, he's impersonal, he's some effulgence, it's formless, there's no form for him. But that is a partial understanding as per scriptures. Now, in the Vishnu Purana, it is stated that Vishnu and his abodes are all have self-illuminate spiritual existence. So, in the spiritual world, now in the material world, without the sun, when it is cloudy, it's dark. At night there is sun is not visible. Of course, sun is there, but it's not visible to our eyes, or this portion of the geographical location. So it's dark. So in the material world, we need some external object like the sun or the moon or the stars. In the room, you need to put on the lights, otherwise you can't see anything. You can't even see your own hands. So in the material world, we need some extra, because it's full of ignorance, or we can say that's where that is denoted by darkness. We need this external luminous objects. But in the spiritual world, it is not needed. In the spiritual world, uh, there is no existence of spiritual sun or something. There is nothing like that, because it is self illuminated. How it is self illuminated? From the effulgence, because of the effulgence coming from the transcendental body of Lord Krishna. So by that effulgence, the whole spiritual world is illuminated. So further Prabhupada is mentioning that is the version of all. Yeah, the words existent, non-existent refer only to spirit and matter, and that is what the great personalities have concluded. Okay, this is the beginning of the instruction of by the Lord to the living entities. So he's not instructing only Arjuna, but through Arjuna he is instructing to all of us. That's why Bhagavad Gita, like if you get a washing machine, if you got a new washing machine, then you will have to okay, if you have got a washing machine, then you will have to go through the manual to see how to operate it. Similarly, we have got this human body, and how to use this human body, what are we going to do with this human body, that we get to know from the Bhagavad Gita. So it's like a manual for a human life. So this is the instruction. What is the instruction? The difference between the spirit and matter. That is the first instruction by Krishna to Arjuna. Not only to Arjuna, through Arjuna to all of us. To the living entities who are bewildered by the influence of ignorance. Removal of ignorance involves a re-establishment. Now ignorance means what? Now if a child, if a son or daughter, he wants to, oh father, I want to stand, I want to make my own career and all, I don't want to depend on you, I'm just I don't want you, I don't want your name, I want to do things my own way, and just runs away from home. So maybe he has some pocket money or something. He may stay nicely for few days, but after that pocket money is exhausted, he's literally like a beggar on the street. He has no place to stay. He has no food to eat, no good clothes. So he's like roaming here and there for little food or some clothing or something. So that is our situation. Now we are all, Krishna claims in Bhagavad Gita that all aham bija pradapita. So I am the seed giving father of all living entities. So we can imagine we have the Supreme Lord as our father. And but what did we do? We wanted to enjoy separately from him, and therefore we left him, and we are all coming from the spiritual world, but we left our home, and trying to enjoy separately from him, we came to this material world. And what is happening here? This material world is full of dualities, full of happiness and distress. So we are all caught up in this. And this is ignorance. When we forget that relationship with the Supreme, that is ignorance, and that is what our state is in the material world. So removal of that ignorance. So how that ignorance will be removed? Now that child who left home and is wandering here and there begging for food and something. So one day some friend of his father happens to pass that way, and he sees, oh, he's a son of my friend. So he goes to him and he's like, what are you doing here? Let's go home, your father is waiting for you, let's go home. And he drags him literally and puts him in the car and takes him to the father. And that person is a spiritual master who is like hammers on our head, trying to break our ignorance, that what are you doing in this material world, why don't you go back to your actual home. So that re-establishment of our eternal relationship with that Supreme, that's how we can remove this ignorance. And consequent understanding of the difference between the part and parcel living entities and Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can understand the nature of the Supreme by thorough study of oneself, the difference between oneself and the Supreme being understood as the relationship between part and the whole. So we can understand that we are part and parcel. So the qualities, the quality of the part and parcel will be similar to that of the whole, or from by studying an individual soul, by studying the spiritual qualities or the nature of the soul, one can understand the nature of the supreme Lord as well. In the Vedanta Sutras as well as the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Supreme has been accepted as the origin of all emanations, the cause of all causes, and He is the origin of everything. Everything is coming from Him. Such emanations are experienced by superior and inferior natural sequences. The living entities belong to the superior nature as well as it will be revealed. Okay. So in the 7th chapter, we'll see that in details. Although there is no difference between energy and energetic, the energetic is accepted as supreme, energy is accepted as subordinate. So of course, if there is a flower and the flower has a fragrance, so you cannot separate the fragrance of the flower from the flower. If the flower is there, the fragrance will be there. But at the same time, the flower is the one from which the fragrance is coming. So fragrance is subordinate to the flower. Similarly, we all are coming from the Supreme Lord. So we are His energy, and the energetic is the Supreme Lord. So though we are all eternally connected to Him, but He is the predominating, and we are the predominated. Means He is the supreme and we are subordinate. The living entities therefore are always subordinate to the Supreme Lord, as in the case of the master and the servant, or teacher and the taught. Such clear knowledge is impossible to understand under the spell of ignorance. So in our ignorant state, when we have no understanding of the spiritual, that we are spiritual beings, we have some connection with the Lord. If when we have no understanding of this, then what do we think? Okay, I am an Indian, I am a boy, I am a girl, and I have to do this, I have to have this career, then I have to get married, and then I have to do this, I have to build a big house, and so on. So that is how we are caught in ignorance. And to drive away such ignorance, the Lord teaches the Bhagavad Gita for the enlightenment of all living entities for all time. So this is not only for Arjuna, but it is for all living entities. Now all living entities also includes plants, animals, flowers, trees, plants, and all that. But um, because I mean, animals and all, they will not come and sit and discuss this Bhagavad Gita. So those who have got specially human bodies, they can understand, because because human life is actually meant for understanding these teachings of the Lord. So those who are in lower species, they have to wait to come to. Of course, there are exceptional cases. Otherwise, if we see the natural way, they have to come to the point of taking a human body, and then they can have the chance to hear from a bona fide authority and understand and practice bhakti. So for all living entities for all time. So it is not that it was told in the Dwapar Yuga, so it's not applicable in the Kali Yuga. No, it's very clearly mentioned here that is applicable for all times. These instructions is applicable for any time. Satya Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, whatever it is, it's applicable for everyone for all time. Okay, I will stop here. If anybody has any points to add, or you have any queries, then we can discuss on that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat now. Mataji, actually, I have questions while practicing the Krishna consciousness chantings, we are sometimes I'm unable to connect deep on thinking about Krishna, And because of the material like coverage of I am the body, I am the contamination of the I am body, I am the I am the wife of this and daughter of this, and such coverage is there that's unable to, because as we have discussed here, we have mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, we are part and parcel of Krishna, and we are detached long, many life after life, forgetful. And so whatever whatever I'm practicing, it is looks like a mechanically Mataji. No, it's not by heart. It is coming. I'm whatever doing. I'm everything doing for Krishna, and that natural behavior, how it will come, Mataji. Please, kindly.
Hare Krishna. Okay, this question was maybe today or yesterday, I don't remember, was asked to Guru Mata, and many times this question comes, and we all have this experience. Even I am also on the mechanical platform only. So yes, in the beginning, we are just we have got this knowledge that okay, this is how it is. We are all caught up in this material world, which is not our natural habitat. So I need to go back to my actual home, and for that I need to practice like this the certain things, okay, chanting and this. So it is at present it's like mechanical. But then often I have heard from Gurudev Guru Mata's classes that they cite one example that Prabhupada mentions, that in earlier times, uh, before the I mean in earlier times, at a very young age, the girls and boys, they would get married. huh. So they haven't they're very young. uh, so they have no understanding of what is this marriage, and they're just like kids, wanting to play around and so on. But then gradually, the of course they are married, but they will be staying, like the girl will be staying at her home, and the boy will be staying at his home. But sometimes the parents of the girl will make her to take some food or something, some things to the boy's home. So in that way they will be like somehow connected. So it is very mechanical for a small child. She doesn't know, they don't know what is this marriage and all. But then gradually, over a period of time, when they attain a suitable age, then there's naturally that attraction develops. So she's my wife or he's my husband, and there is that no reciprocation begins. That natural reciprocation in one sense begins. Though in their childhood days it was very mechanical. They didn't know why I'm going, what I'm doing, who is this, he's just a friend or something like that. So in our bhakti also, yes, in our present state, we are just trying to follow the process given, and it is mechanical in the beginning, for us. But then by continuing, okay, of course, we if we understand that it is mechanic, I'm doing it mechanically, I need to develop the feeling and so on. That is the first step. Otherwise I will just keep doing it mechanically. And it said, if I don't give up the offenses to the holy names, then one may keep on chanting for thousands of years but will never get liberated or so on. So if I understand that yes, it is mechanical. So why it is mechanical? That means I am committing some offenses to the holy names. So what are the offenses to the holy names? There are 10 offenses. So I can consciously try to avoid those offenses, and as much as possible try to chant purely. Now Guru Mata often says that distraction of the mind when we are chanting, um, you know when we are not focused, on the holy names, then it gives rise to committing. I'm not, that means I'm not doing my chanting properly, and therefore there will be so many xyz offenses also. But if we can just focus on chanting and hearing, of course, first of all, Prabhupada mentions that, okay, feel the presence of the Lord when we are chanting. If you are not able to do that, then at least hear the sound vibrations. So yeah, it is mechanical, but consciously, if you try to focus and focus and focus, so with that, because these are transcendental sound vibrations, we will get purified, and we can come to the stage of pure chanting. So even if mechanical, consciously we should put an effort to get or to chant in a proper way, or to develop feelings in our day to day, whatever services like offering bhoga and all. Though I'm saying I myself in the on, is I mean on that mechanical state, but this is how Guru Mata mentions often in the classes. Did it help you, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, it's very much helpful, Mataji. Mataji, there are 10 offenses. Sometimes we are thinking that okay, whatever time I'm doing, no, it's correct. But how to find out that offenses, Mataji? That no, just Nama has no, it's not inattentive chanting means our mind is going here and there, and we while chanting we are remembering those those past times, or maybe some things which happened in the daytime or nighttime. That is the offenses. And the Vaishnava Aparat also it's going on. That is also because of that also maybe it is unable to concentrate.
Yeah, I mean, all the 10 offenses are there, but it is also said that Vaishnava Aparadha that comes first, that comes in first offense. But when we focus on the sound vibrations, when we focus, then automatically we are, I mean, we are, if I'm just chanting and I'm just hearing and focusing on that, so that means that purification is happening properly. If I'm just chanting but I'm thinking about xyz things, this that means the process of chanting I'm not doing, neither I'm chanting properly nor I'm hearing it properly. So that purification, I'm making it slow. The process of purification is, I'm making it slower. um, so that is why it is mentioned that focusing on chanting, then we are getting properly, that will help us to avoid most of the offenses. So the more I get purified, the more my tendency to commit offenses against Vaishnavas will also reduce. So it's just like Krishna consciousness is the path, and that is the destination. So that by following these activities in Krishna consciousness, chanting and so on, uh, the more we are able to do it properly, the more we progress in the path and can reach the destination very soon. So yes, it could be different reasons, like there are 10 offenses, it could be any of them, but at least we can focus on properly chanting. Then we can also um, remove these tendencies or get rid of the tendencies of committing offenses to Vaishnavas, or the other offenses in the list of 10 offenses.
Yes, understood, Mataji. Thank you so much. Mataji, what is exactly meaning of Vaishnava Aparat? No, we are doing so many activities. No, whether it is offended to no anyone or not. How to identify that, Mataji?
Identify in the sense, actually, in our present state, Gurudev once mentioned in a class that we are like talking, speaking, we are doing all apparats. We are like, offensive in our all activities, because just now we read about being ignorance, under the influence of ignorance. So we are all coming from that background of full of ignorance in this material world. So we have this nature to be offensive to everyone. Now we are trying to become devotees, but that tendency of being offensive is still there. So So what do we do about it? But if we are actually wanting to progress in our chanting, in our Krishna consciousness, uh, we have to avoid these offenses. And in the list of offenses, yeah, as you mentioned, Vaishnava Aparad. So, how do we identify? Comes the next question. Okay, consciously, I should not be like, oh, this devotee is gross, is like somebody hit some devotee or something. That is too much, huh? Apart from that, if I spoke harshly to some devotee with some material motive, oh, this devotee is doing this so nicely, everybody is praising this devotee, nobody is looking at me, what is this? Something happens and I spoke to that devotee harshly or something, rudely, or criticized him or something like that. So this is a small example of being offensive. Now, if I had no such intention, I said something, in a proper way or right thing, but the other devotee felt offended. So, if we get to know, we can still go and try to explain, beg for forgiveness that I had no such intention, but still kindly forgive me if I offended you in some way. So now the other devotee of um, forgives or whatever. So we should understand, at least consciously, we shouldn't be like in a mode of criticizing someone or be envious, oh, this devotee is being praised like this, like that, or something like that. So these are the gross way of trying to understand being offensive. And one of many examples we see in scriptures, one is that of Durvasa Muni and Ambarish Maharaj, sorry. Durvasa Muni, unnecessarily he got angry on Ambarish Maharaj and tried to created a demon to kill him, to harm him. So that was very offensive. But he was protected. Ambarish Maharaj was protected by the Lord. So that kind of offenses, yeah, we should try to avoid consciously. And unknowingly anything means, of course, we can beg the forgiveness from all Vaishnavas by humbly, bowing down and praying, that Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuve Vacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. So Guru Mata says it shouldn't be just bowing down mechanically, but with really feeling and begging forgiveness, or bowing down really with feeling. So we should be doing like that. So yes, did that help you, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji. I tried like as I could not do any of it. Even I heard even like no. Sometimes I'm feeling sleeping in the class while Guru Mataji or Gurudev maybe in early morning, and that is also offensive. But instead of I'm thinking, ma'am, Mataji, like not thinking that okay, not attend because I used to sleep. Uh, in that mode, I have to avoid, or no, how I will not sleep. I have to try for.
Yeah, I also fall in that list sometimes, specifically in the morning Chaitanya Charitamrita classes. So yes, we have to understand, either I didn't have proper sleep, first of all, or if I'm too much eager about something, if I would have some exams and I know that I have not completed 5 chapters, then even if sleep come, I mean, even if we feel sleepy, we'll go and wash our face and come and sit and study. We might have done that. All of us must have some such experience. So, which shows that I'm not able to give that much importance to this class, or to these classes and all. Even, I mean, it is applicable for me also. I also fall asleep sometimes, or maybe many times. so so yes, we can try it. Of course, if one is to, let's say, there was a festival or one has some services or something, and the whole day, previous day was like no rest at all, moving here and there, hectic, and there was no proper rest, so one is feeling sleepy and all. That could be understood, but that is an exceptional case. Otherwise, we can try to stand up or do something so that we can avoid falling asleep.
Sure, Mataji, I will do. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandat Pranam. Anything else, Mataji? Pramila Mataji or Nisha Mataji, do you have anything to add? Seems like we are done for today. Okay, so we'll close for today. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you so much, Matajis, for joining. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.